Zelenskyy says Russia dragging out Geneva peace talks. Russian missile parts production plant hit in Cheboksary, and how Russia may use energy truce to launch a new strike on Ukraine. The latest news next. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy stated that there had been some progress on the military track of the negotiations following the trilateral meeting between Ukraine, the United States and Russia in Geneva, Switzerland.
Our negotiating team briefed me on the 2 days of talks, particularly regarding their substance. As you know, there are two tracks, military and political. I would like to note that in the military track, all three sides were constructive, based on the briefing I have just received.
At the same time, according to Zelenskyy, there has been no comparable progress on the political track.
As for the political component, which involves all the sensitive issues you are aware of, we see that there has been some groundwork. But so far the positions remain different, as the negotiations were not easy.
He added that the Ukrainian delegation would provide him with further details of the negotiations later.
So, on the military track, I heard there was progress. On the political track, well, there was dialogue, an agreement to move forward, and an agreement to continue discussions. However, I did not hear of the same level of progress there as on the military side.
At the talks in Geneva, Russia may present its compliance with the moratorium on strikes against energy infrastructure as a major concession by Moscow while preparing for a new devastating strike against Ukraine in the near future, according to the Institute for the Study of War. Analysts note that another short-term moratorium on energy strikes may be discussed during the current negotiations in Geneva. At the same time, the ISW recalls that Vladimir Putin had already used similar tactics in March-April 2025 and January-February 2026. At that time, Moscow claimed to be interested in peace, but at the same time stockpiled missiles and drones for further massive attacks after the restrictions ended.
The Kremlin may seek to portray its compliance with another moratorium on energy strikes as a major Russian concession while preparing to launch another devastating strike against Ukraine in the near future.
Residents of Cheboksary, Chuvashia, reported numerous explosions in the early morning hours, a company that manufactures components for Russian missiles and drones may have been hit, according to Russian media and public sources. The plant in question is VNIR Progress, which is the very plant that locals report being hit. It produces components for missiles, drones, and even guided aerial bombs for the enemy army. However, public sources report that smoke is visible about 800 to 900 meters from the plant, so it is not certain that VNIR Progress was attacked. The governor of the region, Oleg Nikolaev, confirmed the drone attack in Cheboksary, but did not mention the plant. Some streets in Cheboksary have also been closed due to shelling. Public sources report that locals have already found 3 drones lying on the roads. The Russians are actively working on the development of marine drones, which they want to use to deliver massive strikes. According to the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, there is currently no evidence of systematic or effective use of these weapons to achieve significant combat results. At the same time, Russia continues to develop and produce new types of naval drones. In particular, the Triton-type device, which can reach speeds up to 100 km per hour, is likely being prepared for attacks on civilian shipping and port infrastructure in Ukraine.
At the same time, existing production plans, in particular up to 40 units of systems of SCAT type per month, indicate the intention of the adversary to shift to tactics of mass use.
The HUR pays particular attention to the development of the Prosvet-1 autonomous underwater vehicle, which is being created to counter Ukrainian underwater unmanned systems. This indicates Russian attempts to form a layered underwater defense. About marine drones, Ukraine became the first country in the world to massively and effectively use marine drones to destroy ships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which significantly changed the balance of power in the Black Sea. A striking example was the attack by SBUC Baby drones, which struck 2 sanctioned oil tankers, Cairo and Virat, belonging to Russia's Shadow Fleet. According to Ukrainian Navy spokesperson Dmytro Platenchuk, Russia is now trying to copy Ukrainian designs. However, the effectiveness of Russian analogous has not yet been confirmed. Unlike Russians, the Ukrainian military continues to strike exclusively at legitimate military targets and assures that it is fully prepared for new threats from Russia. Russia is considered the main threat to Sweden and NATO. Moscow's increasingly risky behavior could provoke dangerous escalation, according to Politico. In its annual report, the Swedish intelligence service highlighted examples of Russia's hostile actions in the region, including the Baltic Sea. These actions include airspace violations, sabotage, and cyber operations. Russia is the primary military threat to Sweden and NATO, the report states, adding that the threat is serious and concrete, and Moscow's actions are opportunistic and aggressive. Sweden's assessment came a week after the Estonian intelligence service described Russia as dangerous despite its incompetence. At the same time, Estonia warned against panic, noting that it had found no evidence that Russia intends to attack the country or NATO in 2027. Analysts suggested that Russia is unlikely to invade in the near future, given strengthened defense measures across Europe.
What protects us is the strength of the alliance and the faith that we and Russia have in Article 5, NATO's collective defense clause.
Recent NATO commitments to raise defense spending to 3.5% of GDP also contribute to security, as a near official said. So long as we continue to make the investments, that's what keeps us on the side of the equation in which Russia wouldn't dare, he added. The Estonian report also noted that Russia has sharply increased artillery production, signaling that Moscow will remain a threat even if peace is achieved in Ukraine. According to the report, Russia is preparing for the next war. Estimates show that shell and artillery production has increased 17-fold since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Quote, "You don't simply turn all that off the day the war ends. Russia will end up in some areas stronger as a military force than when it began," summarized the senior NATO official. Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna said Estonia could host allied nuclear weapons on its territory if NATO determines it necessary, according to ERR. Tsahkna emphasized that Europe should not rule out NATO's supranational nuclear deterrence.
Bringing a nuclear weapon here to our territory, we are not against it. We do not have a doctrine in which we have somehow ruled out, if NATO deems it necessary in accordance with our defense plans, the placement of a nuclear weapon, for example, on our territory.
He also added that Estonia's foreign policy has not changed. Tallinn intends to continue pressuring Russia and supporting Ukraine, whose territorial integrity remains a priority. About nuclear weapons in Europe, earlier it was reported that France is considering deploying its nuclear weapons on Allied territory to replace US nuclear weapons in Europe. Later, French President Emmanuel Macron said he had launched strategic discussions on protecting the entire continent with France's nuclear deterrent. Recently, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated that Germany and France are holding talks on European nuclear deterrence. According to media reports, several European countries publicly support discussions about creating their own nuclear weapons in addition to US nuclear arms, amid declining trust in the United States under President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Polish President Karol Nawrocki said Poland should develop its own nuclear weapons as the country is on the brink of armed conflict. On the night of February 17th, drones attacked the Ilsky oil refinery in the Krasnodar region of Russia. Occupied Sevastopol also reported one of the longest attacks in recent times, according to Astra and statements of local authorities. About drones in Russia, those a series of powerful explosions thundered in the Krasnodar region of Russia. Kamikaze drones attacked an oil refinery in Ilsky. It is reported that as a result of strikes, a large-scale fire broke out on the territory of the enterprise. Witnesses published videos with fire and smoke. According to the operational headquarters of the Krasnodar region, as a result of an unmanned aerial vehicle attack on the Ilsky oil refinery, a reservoir with petroleum products caught fire. The area of the fire was about 700 square meters. 72 people and 21 units of equipment were involved in the elimination of consequences, including specialists of the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia and a fire train. According to preliminary information, no injuries. It concerns the Ilsky oil refinery, an enterprise in the Krasnodar region that is among the leading oil refining companies of the Southern Federal District of Russia. The plant carries out reception, storage and processing of hydrocarbon raw materials, as well as shipment of products by road and rail transport. According to open sources, the enterprise is involved in supplying the Russian military-industrial complex. About the attack on Crimea, also on the night of February 17th, a massive attack was reported in occupied Sevastopol. Local authorities reported one of the longest attacks in recent times. According to the local governor, during the night, air defense forces and Black Sea Fleet of Russia allegedly shot down more than 24 unmanned aerial vehicles. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.